All right, I guess let's get started and folks will continue rolling in. Awesome. So, everyone, welcome to the October edition of the community call for Azure Kubernetes Service. As you probably know by now, each month on this call, we are looking at all the interesting announcements coming up in the Azure Kubernetes service space. We go through some feature deep dives, product roadmap. Of course, at the end of it, we have the Q&A as well. The Q&A is usually open mic, so you are going to be able to come off the mic and ask your questions, be able to interact with the product team folks that we have here. So, and we definitely look forward for that interaction. So before we get started, just very quick housekeeping items. Yeah, nothing new here. As you probably all know, this call is going to be recorded. We upload it onto the AKS YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed there, I highly recommend it. We have not just these calls getting recorded, but we also have a bunch of other videos, right? We have our podcast series there. We have George Palmer runs his AKS Me Anything podcast, which is where he talks to engineering folks. We have another one where we talk to upstream teams here. And then apart from these, there is obviously a lot of content, short videos about AKS, and a lot of different things that come in as well. So highly recommend that you subscribe there. If you don't know where to find us, we are at youtube.com/at the AKS community. That's the YouTube channel. Now, these community calls are for everyone. This is, you may be a AKS customer, you might be a developer who is working to service your customers for AKS. It doesn't, or you may just be an AKS enthusiast, right? So, but definitely do share with all the other folks that you know who are into the Kubernetes space. I mean, come on, friends don't let friends be away from AKS. uh, then, as I mentioned, this is going to be a very interactive call. We love to engage with you folks, so I do encourage you to ask a lot of questions. Oh yes, don't forget the partners. Thanks, Will. Yes, we definitely don't forget the partners. This is going to be an extremely, we love to engage with you, so we are looking forward for that. Do ask questions. The chat is open throughout this call. At the end of it, we are also going to have open mic discussions. We would definitely love to hear from you. We have multiple folks from the product team here, and so any questions that you have, hopefully we are able to address those. Lastly, we love to hear from you as well. So if you have feedback about this call or about generally what you would like to see about in the content coming in from the AKS product team, be it from our product management or from our engineering space as well, we would love to hear from you. The QR code that you see here on the screen, that would take you to a content feedback form. Very simple, quick 2-3 minutes that you would be able to provide us with um, good feedback and help us improve the content on AKS based on what you would like to see. So as I mentioned, this is going to be open mic. It's all of us AKS friends here, so we are of course keeping all the conversations friendly, welcoming, respectful as we get off the mics or even in the chats. With that being said, let's get into the agenda. So nothing surprising here. We are starting with the announcements. We have some very interesting things coming up. We are starting with those. We have a feature deep dive session today that Jack Chiang, one of our PMs, is going to be conducting. He's going to go deep into managed namespaces. We do also have what we call as content spotlight, which is where we ask you folks to submit whatever content you have created for AKS, and we would love to show that off to the rest of the world here on this call. So that section will be coming up next. Then the usual stuff, we go into the roadmaps, deprecated features, and then we would open up for a Q&A. Having said that, let me hand over to Corey here for the announcements.
Hello. I apologize if I have a spotty connection. I am en route to a team week. I think we're actually starting today with an announcement from the Azure storage team. So if there are folks on the call who want to go through the latest and greatest in Azure storage, that would be awesome.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Corey. Eric, do you want to go?
Yeah, I think that would be me. Hello, everyone. My name is Eric. I'm a part of the Azure Storage team. I'm super excited to be announcing the version 2.0.0 release of our product, Azure Container Storage. We have a fun little video that describes a little bit about it, and then I can talk more at length about the specific details. Sanka, is that something you're able to start from your end? Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that little sizzle video. We'll move on to the next slide. So Azure Container Storage is similar to the CSI drivers in that today you can use the CSI drivers to work with all different parts of Azure Storage between block, file, and object storage. AC Store provides you the ability to use more backends that are not supported in the Azure Disk CSI driver. So we in this V2 release of the product, we're focusing specifically on local NVMe drives that are available in select VM families like storage optimized VMs, the new V6 VMs, the GPU enabled VMs that you get in Azure. And these local NVMe drives provide you with the highest amount of IOPS and throughput you can get in Azure. So for super latency sensitive workloads, which can be great for AI ML type jobs or things like databases, Azure Container Storage might be a good fit if you need sub-second latency and IOPS that exceed what you get from normal remote disks. We have new storage backends coming soon, such as Elastic SAN, and we'll keep you up to date with any new backends that we have coming in the pipeline. And as you saw in the sizzle video, we do have an open source version of Azure Container Storage called Local CSI Driver, which you can install via Helm chart from our GitHub repo. I've put in the chat a number of great resources if you want to get a deeper technical dive into how it works and some documentation to get you started. If you have any questions with using the product, feel free to reach out to us at askcontainerstorage@microsoft.com. We would love to see what you are able to build with AC Store. And yeah, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to address it in the chat. I see that we have some coming in already.
Yeah, I think one of the questions was Windows support for AC Container Storage. Francis probably answered that in the chat, but maybe you can cover it in the voice as well here.
Oh, yes. So yeah, Windows support is not available yet. We are designed for Linux nodes only at the moment. So if you have clusters that you're creating from scratch, which are by default going to be using Azure Linux, or you have an existing cluster, then you can install the AKS extension via the CLI or use our local CSI repo. But we do have an underlying precondition that the nodes are using Linux.
Awesome.
Great
Thanks,
question.
Eric. All right. I think we'll continue taking the questions in the chat here. Let's move on to the next one. Corey, do you want to talk about AKS?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, I'm going to stay off camera because no one needs to see me lost in Seattle and wandering around like a noob. But we have lots of events that are coming up this season. And, I'm collecting the associated gray hairs associated with the timelines of these. So AKS will be showing up many places. So if you are attending any or all of these events, please feel free to come and interact with our team. Coming up more at the end of October is GitHub Universe. There will be an Azure App Platform booth that will be featuring AKS and AKS Automatic there. So if you're there, feel free to swing by and talk to some of our experts. I believe Lockie Evanton will be on site for sure, as well as some other folks. November 3rd to 5th, we also have Brennan Burns will be attending Ray Summit, which is in San Francisco. And then we head into my favorite season, KubeCon season. Although every season feels like KubeCon season for me these days. So on November 10th, we will be hosting our traditional Azure Day with Kubernetes, AKS pre-day deep dive event featuring all of the latest and greatest announcements from the AKS product team, some features of customers and partners, as well as hands-on labs and kind of whiteboarding style discussions in the afternoon. We'll also be having a happy hour at the end of that. So if folks are planning on attending KubeCon Atlanta, please register for our Azure Day with Kubernetes if you're interested in collaborating with our community. If you're an MVP and you're interested in supporting or participating in any of these events, if you happen to be attending, then please reach out and let me know that you're interested in working on some of the collaborating on some stuff around AKS. So I will drop the link for that in the chat with the link roundup, but Azure Day with Kubernetes on November 10th. And then we head into the main KubeCon North America event. We will have a big booth. We've got lots of great things going on there. Theater sessions, a keynote, trivia contest, lots of great stuff and ways to interact with the team. If you are a customer and you're attending and you would like to meet with the product team, please work with your account manager or your rep, and they can help you set up some on-site meeting time with the team. And then finally, in the sprint to the end of November is Microsoft Ignite. So we will be at Ignite in San Francisco the week after KubeCon. So if you're going to be there and you see me, please give me a coffee. I probably need it. And we hope to engage with folks everywhere. And if you want more information on any of these events or from the KubeCon perspective, if you're on the fence and you'd like a 20% discount code, again, please reach out to me on Teams, which you should have access to through this meeting. And I'll be happy to hook you up with that. And I think that's it for me today, Sankat.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey. Just moving on with the announcements, the AKS Me Anything season with George is season 2 with George is out as well. We have a few more engineering folks coming in and talking about everything on how they're working with AKS. What does day-to-day look like for AKS engineering teams as they work on these? So again, all these QR codes are where you can actually find the podcast. We are on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast. So hopefully that solves your podcast location for most of you guys. There is another one that we do host, which is called Upstream at AKS, and this one actually talks about all of the contributions that we do upstream to CNCF projects. And these are all the contributions from within the AKS team itself, right? So again, an extremely interesting podcast, extremely insightful. This is a lot more community focused, a lot more focused on open source projects. So do take a listen to each of these. I'm pretty sure you guys would love it. Getting into the next one, we have the content spotlight segment here. So today's content spotlight goes to Nathan Nellens. I hope I'm spelling your name right, Nathan. Nathan, sorry about that. But yeah, so Nathan has an interesting article around AKS workload identity that he had published. And yeah, we just want to provide this more as a spotlight to all the folks who are doing some really amazing contributions out to AKS within the community here. If you have some interesting content as well, by the way, congratulations, Nathan. Definitely love your content there. Apart from this particular workload identity article, Nathan also has a bunch of different articles on how we are how you can work with Azure, work with AKS, and so forth, right? So definitely give it a read. So if you have your own interesting content that you would like to highlight here, just go to this link, akms /AKS /community content. Do provide us with a link to your content. We will go through it, and we would definitely love to provide you a spotlight here. So thanks for all the awesome work that you guys are doing in the community. We always love to see that. All right, having said that, let's get to Jack. Jack, let's walk us through managed namespaces.
Yeah, thanks, Ankit. So, uh, I kind of lost track of the time zones. So I'll just say good day, everyone, to hopefully include as many people on the call as I can in that call out. But yeah, this will be going over to a feature called Managed Namespaces, which we previewed a little over a month back. Ankit, if you go to the next slide. So yeah, with managed namespaces, the name itself is fairly self-explanatory in what it does, where it just gives you a really cool handle in order to set up namespaces that AKS can manage for you. So the main goal of this is it helps you get around a lot of the configurations that you might have to do for instance, if you want to define resource quotas with a namespace, you can get around having to make your deployment, deploy it, then apply it to a namespace. If you want to really easily delete your namespaces on your clusters, you can pretty easily do it with the namespaces that are created in our managed namespaces managed by ARM. So very much just getting a lot of the kind of tedious manual, burdensome bits out of your hands and let you focus on more of the kind of fun stuff. So managed namespaces, we have a few, I'll say, large categories of functionalities where here I give a really quick overview and we can dive into more of each as we move along. But first and foremost, as I hinted upon in our previous slide, you are able to define CPU and memory requests and limits. So when you create your namespace, you can really easily define what are the requests and limits to each of those. And that way, when you actually do propagate your namespaces in your cluster, those do get assigned accordingly. You can set up Kubernetes labels and annotations that are applied. So if anyone is familiar with the kind of upstream labels and annotations, those are exactly the same as what is used here. Nothing new and nothing super fancy there. You can utilize a set of built-in networking policies to control all network egress and ingress. So we give you a few choices if you want to be super restrictive or if you want to be extremely free-flowing. It's really easy to just go ahead and control what type of network can go through or leave from your namespace. We have pretty cool integration with Azure RBAC as well, so you can easily govern which of the rows on your cluster have access to what type of actions on your namespace. And last but not least, we do have some pretty cool integrations with how we work with existing namespaces and when you both create the namespace and delete the namespace too. I just see a few quick questions in the chat, Alex. Address really quickly. Managed namespaces exposed in the API. Managed namespaces, it is currently right now in the API. It is in public preview, and we are hoping to make it GA in the upcoming Ignite in November. Can you set custom Kubernetes roles? Do you have on your cluster or only Azure? At the moment, currently only Azure RBAC roles, but if you do have some compelling reasons to use custom Kubernetes roles, by all means, please do reach out to us. Again, this is something that we are looking to improve. It is early in the life cycle of this feature, so always room for improvement there. And yeah, I guess that hits it for this slide. Yep. So one of the first functionalities we touched upon earlier was networking policies. So with networking policies, you have kind of three large ones where you're able to kind of allow all, allow same, and deny all. This applies to both your egress and your ingress, where the names, as it does suggest, you either allow all networking to leave or enter your cluster, allow only networking within the same namespace to occur, or just deny all by default. And you can also define it when you want to do it for both the ingress and the egress. So it's separate in its own right. Resource quotas is another thing that this is something that we touched upon earlier, but if you want to, while setting up a namespace, control what is the resources and the limits for both the CPU and memory, we also give you a pretty clean functionality ability to do that as well. Most of the pictures you will see throughout this presentation are shown how it looks like in the Azure portal, but you can just as easily do it if you are a fan of making it in the CLI as well. Yeah, I think before moving on, I'll just try to hit up a few more of the questions that you see coming up. Yeah, I think for Roy, one thing you mentioned with managed namespaces being a really cool landing zone architecture and a shared cluster, that's somewhat like that's hits a little bit of what we're envisioning, where you can easily, like, let's say you have a cluster, you want to logically isolate it. Managed namespaces is hopefully, I guess, like the vehicle that lets you set up a really easy way to have a, I guess, predefined, pre-configured cluster that is already set up for your teams. And it plugs pretty well into one of our other recent launches, for instance, AKS Automatic, or if you just use your normal AKS clusters. Are there any plans to enable binding to dedicated node pools of mutating webhooks? At the moment, we don't have any exact ones, but Carlos, if you do have any more details on that for, I guess, like specific situation or functionality, please do reach out to us. That's something that will be pretty interesting to explore. See, I'll try to hit a few more of it too, hopefully not go over time. Yeah, so similar thing, Victoria, if you also have like a use case that you feel like managed namespaces could help you with, like replacing your gatekeeper or flux functionality, again, please do feel free to reach out to me or us in the AKS team. More than happy to kind of take a dive in it there. Are there any thoughts on making other resources such as service accounts managed in the same way? At the moment, not actively, but that is stuff that I won't write off entirely. So I think yes, similarly, please do reach out. We'd love to have a conversation. Yeah, I think that hits it for this one. Labels and annotations. This is something that where if you have used it much in the current kind of like Kubernetes, the upstream functionality, we do it much of the same ways, except for we just make it so you can easily declare all of these as you are creating your managed namespaces, so you don't have to go ahead and do it separately. Labels, they're really helpful if you want to go ahead and actually organize and select the resources within your cluster. So it's just kind of key value pairs. We can do something like app is web, app is backend. Meanwhile, annotations are more useful for non-identifying info, so stuff that's like a little bit more teaming towards metadata. Again, when setting up your clusters, these can all really easily be declared during your managed namespace creation time or during your cluster creation time if you do opt to create managed namespaces at that point. Adoption policies, meanwhile, is another thing that we do try to do. We do introduce to play well with namespaces that you might already have on your cluster. So we introduced three broad adoption policies that you can go ahead and set, again, at the time of your managed namespace creation. I kind of just called it out here as progressively, for lack of better words, stronger, but there's probably a better way to call this. But yeah, I'll start from top down. So never is if you say try to already have a namespace such as Jack namespace already on your cluster, and then you try to create a managed namespace with that name, it'll go ahead and actually just fail that managed namespace creation. So it'll be like you'll try to create it, it will be treated as a no-op, nothing will actually happen in the background. If identical is more so if you want to make sure something only happens if the namespace that is being created or the managed namespace being created is the exact same as what is the existing namespace. So if all the configs line up throughout the time of creation, we'll basically go ahead and change that namespace, or we'll take it over, throw on an ARM label, managed by ARM label onto it, and then it will be treated as a managed namespace going forward. Always, meanwhile, is I guess the kind of following the theme of the table, the most strong of three options, where no matter what, if there's an existing namespace, it has certain configs beforehand that don't quite line up, your managed namespace configuration will come in and take over. So now you'll have a managed namespace that will be configured exactly as is during managed namespace creation time. This is pretty useful if you know that you have a namespace already on your cluster, but you're preferring to just defer to how you have your managed namespace configured to. We'll go in, make that namespace a managed namespace, and that's kind of your new namespace going forward. On the flip side of the coin, we also do have delete policies. So managed namespaces, when you do go ahead and create them, we tack on a managed by ARM label, and we also allow you to kind of do stuff like updating your managed namespaces, similar to how you might deal with a lot of your other Azure features or all of your other Azure functionalities, all of your other Azure resources. But you might one day decide, hey, I don't quite need managed namespace number 2, managed namespace number 3. So you might want to go ahead and delete it. We allow you to either keep or delete as the two delete policies on the table right now. So if you opt to go ahead and set keep as your delete policy, what would happen is your entire namespace would remain entirely intact when you do go ahead and delete your managed namespace. All that happens is the managed by ARM label gets removed and it will no longer show up to the system, to Azure, to AKS as a managed namespace. It can still be treated as a normal Kubernetes namespace. The other one is delete. So if you choose delete as your delete policy, it will just delete the entirety of the managed namespace, everything associated to it. So yeah, everything is just gone if you do go ahead and do that. And yeah, that hits it for about the bulk of what managed namespace we currently have. Again, this feature is currently in preview. We are definitely open for any and all rooms for improvement. So please do go ahead, spin up a cluster, give it a try. I'll throw a short link to the managed namespace page in the chat in just a second. And yeah, by all means, feel free to reach out to me if you have questions, concerns, thoughts on how we can improve, or even features that you feel like could work pretty similarly to this. That would be cool to have on a roadmap.
Thanks, Jack. I think we have one additional question from Carlos and maybe one coming in from Victoria.
Yep. The case study is multi-tenant clusters with where tenants get a namespace. Yep, Carlos. So I guess with that, so Carlos's point was they're looking at a case study where they have multi-tenant clusters with compute network isolation, where each of the tenants get a namespace or could get multiple namespaces depending on how they configure it or what is needed. I guess, yeah, managed namespaces, we do offer the bit of logical isolation, but if you need, say, like really strong compute isolation, there's some other features we do have in AKS that could be more suitable for that. Networking isolation, similarly, managed namespaces, if you configure your network policies properly, you can make sure that we're networking from namespace to namespace is pretty isolated. But alternatively, if you want to make sure you have like super hardened network let's say you have like a private VNet, that's one example. Otherwise, you might want to look into stuff like Istio or some other more particularly networking functionalities. But yeah, I can throw a really quick recap on at least like the compute isolation bit that I was hinting at. I'll respond in the chat right after as well. For Victoria, may I ask how this is currently being used and why is this better than deploying your own namespace, resource code, etc.? I understand it cuts down on the YAML. Yep. So yeah, a very good point, Victoria. You do call out kind of like the big bit of the big bit of the functionality here is very much we just want to cut down on a lot of the kind of like manifest YAML deployment creation that devs will actually go ahead and have to do. If you now kind of think about like kind of take a step further though, with the fact that all of these are now managed by AKS, managed by ARM, you can easily change a lot of your namespaces at a, like with just like a say AZ namespace, AKS namespace, CLI config command, or once you go GA, if you have other tools that you prefer, like Terraform, you can easily kind of change it through that instead of having to go through your normal, say, Kubernetes deployments, change all of those, redeploy it and such. So very much, I think it's just like in my mind, it's kind of centralized management, making it easier on the developers, so they don't have to kind of go one by one, and they don't have to go to all of the different manifests, all the different resources to update, create, delete, and do all of those full namespace lifecycle stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. This was great. So, folks, I mean, feel free to keep the questions coming in. We would love to. Jack would be here on the call, so we would love to keep engaging with you on these questions. Let's move on to the next segment here, which is around the AKS roadmap. A quick disclaimer here. As you're aware, I think this is more of a routine stuff right now, but we do provide some timelines when we talk about roadmap. I mean, these are more of timeline estimates, right? I mean, this is usually we usually try to stick to these timelines as much as possible, but then there would be changes that can be expected, which we can't really foresee at this time, right? So just take it with that a little bit of that context. All right. So talking about the GA roadmap, I think Corey already mentioned that we are nearing the event season. So we have the KubeCon Ignite coming up next month before we break in for the holidays. So right now the team is like literally heads down preparing for this event season. So we'll have a bunch of previews, bunch of feature releases coming up. We do want to go back to what we talked about last month around AKS Automatic. This is a repeat announcement, really, but if you were on the call with us last month, you saw some really jazzy visuals of AKS Automatic. We also had a full day launch event. And more as a recap, I mean, with Automatic, we are simply simplifying the cloud native development and deployment for the users with a very opinionated and production ready deployment, right? We are definitely interested in your feedback. So between last month when we actually GA'd this and now, if you have had a chance to actually try out Automatic, we would love to hear from you. It's going to be, obviously, this solution is a little bit more managed, a little bit more self-serving. If you still need all the flexibility to do the things on your own, standard AKS still provides that. I mean, that stays as is. So Automatic does not replace any of that. But like I said, any feedback that you have around this feature, we would love to hear that. Moving on, the support for disk encryption node sets, disk encryption sets for Node OS disks in Carpenter is GA as well. I think that's another feature here. We also, I think last month we talked about migration from VM availability sets to VMS. This is more of an update and not really a GA announcement, So we talked about this. This feature was retired on 30th of September. At that time, we discussed that there would be a forced migration happening to VM node pools. And this specific behavior was actually relaxed by our partners on the networking team. So while these features are still out of support, there will just not be a forced migration. So that's really a little bit of an update on that feature. It's of course still in your best interest to move out of this if you have not already. And we also did talk about this last time, I believe, but there is a CLI interface that will allow you to automatically migrate your cluster from availability sets to VM node pools. Right. Moving on, AZ Linux snapshots for security packages. That's GA as well. So this is similar to how Ubuntu was doing it. The snapshot service is integrated with Azure's update mechanism. So just a lot more safer and predictable way of, or even consistent way for deploying your updates over. Moving on, then the next one is CNI overlay support for AGC. And you might be aware of this already, but CNI overlay allows you to have more efficient IP address management. Now, with this support in AGC, your overlay network can remain local to your AKS clusters, but then you're able to manage your load balancing much better. So all of your ingress egress can be going through the AGC with this, and your CNI overlay remains local to the clusters here. Is security bad. Okay, and then the last one is really the AC Store 2.0. That's GA. I think Eric actually did a fantastic job of walking us through the whole feature. We just wanted to mention that here because the release does have major performance enhancements, and it is actually the fastest storage available for AKS right now. Moving on to the public preview items, I'm just going to take a quick look at the chat here. So we do have some automatic feedback. Fair enough. I see Brian is responding on that one. All right. So moving on to the public preview items, we are working on putting together AI solutions on top of AKS. I think last week we talked about AKS MCP server. This is more of a agentic support for AKS. It does also have the Homes GPT integration. And for those of you that are not aware, Homes GPT is open source project more around diagnostic capabilities. We have been working with the CNCF teams to donate it to CNCF, and that donation is approved. So Homes GPT is now officially a CNCF sandbox project. The CLI agent for AKS is also in preview right now. So as the name suggests, this is the AI agent for the AKS CLI experience. It builds on top of Homes GPT and the AKS MCP server. Right? So if you are going to be around KubeCon or some of the events that Corey mentioned, you will see a lot of cool demos on this as well, both the Azure 3-day event and the actual KubeCon event as well. So our focus with this is to align these AI solutions on AKS to provide productivity through the context of clusters, the API servers, and all kinds of tasks that you're able to do today, right? And one of the key priorities for us is generally the troubleshooting and debugging areas. These are the tasks that usually require a lot of knowledge, and that's knowledge of the platform, complexity of the deployments, and all of these things. So that's where we think the AI agents can really be helpful. So let's say you're troubleshooting a lot of things. You're looking at a whole bunch of logs, traces. There is complex deployments, multiple tools within the ecosystem that you need to look at. So the idea is to allow it to abstract all of this troubleshooting complexity by providing this AI-enabled experience. Again, if you have been able to try this out, let us know what you feel about it. We are pretty excited about this whole thing. Next one is the portal experience for NAP, Node Auto Provisioning. We did speak about Node Auto Provisioning last month as well. To recap, it was GA'd, I think end of July is when we GA'd Node Auto Provisioning. So Node Auto Provisioning is basically a managed Carpenter version within AKS. So it looks at your pod resource utilizations, automatically chooses the VM configurations to scale out in most efficient and cost-effective manner, right? So earlier, this experience was managed purely through Azure CLI, and we now have that experience on Portal as well. So this is in preview. If you are one of the customers that are using Portal, or let's say you're just kicking the tires and trying to figure out what NAP is, would love to see what you think about the Portal there. Moving to the next one, 4786, that's confidential VMs for Ubuntu 2404. The Ubuntu support itself was previewed earlier this year. So we do also have confidential VMs now with Ubuntu 24.04. So just note that the Ubuntu support itself is in preview, specifically the 24.04 version. So just something to note if you're planning to use these in your production workloads. So we are working to make this GA very soon. No dates yet, but I think you'll probably hear it first on this call when it happens. All right. Moving to the next one, this is around Fleet Manager, multi-cluster upgrade gates support. Upgrade gates now support approvals. So if you're aware of the AKS Fleet Manager, it Fleet Manager basically enables at-scale management of multiple clusters, right? So imagine you as an administrator being able to manage multiple clusters with updates, with intelligent resource placements and centralized monitoring. All of that essentially sums up your fleet experience, right? So let's say you're updating a large number of these clusters, you would often want to uh, perform like pre and post update checks. So this feature would now allow you to gate check this updates of these clusters, right? So for example, let's say you're taking your test clusters, moving them to production. These gate checks will allow you to ensure that those clusters are healthy to be moved over to the production. And you can also have approvals with those gate checks, either manual or automated approvals. All right, so with that being said, that's all the list that we have for GA and public preview announcements. Hoping we'll definitely have much more to cover as we get closer to the events there. So next month is going to be super interesting for these roadmap announcements I'm expecting. Quick word on the deprecation and retirements. I think both of these we have covered last year. I just wanted to kind of reiterate more, just because I think it's important, right? I mean, server upgrades usually take a longer time, so uh, we just want to make sure that we reiterate that here. And Corey just corrected me here. So Azure Linux is retiring on November 30th, not in July. So sorry about that. Right. So that being said, let's open the floor for any questions. Let's see. Let me just quickly allow mics. Yeah, I think you should be able to come off mute and ask any questions that you may have. We can or any feedback as well. I'm going through the chat for previous questions. Right, we have a question around NAP. NAP and standalone Carpenter don't support any start and stop for clusters. Are there plans to address this? Let me see. Do we have anybody on the call who might be Brian?
Hey, Sanka. Yeah, I don't have the answer, but it's something we'll check into. We probably need to check with our PM that owns Snap. I am kind of curious too. I mean, there are a few things that aren't supported with start and stop clusters, and we do know customers use those to kind of reduce costs, especially for like test and dev environments and so forth. So yeah, thanks for that feedback. We'll share back here once we get an answer on it. But it's always good to know that that's something we're looking for that's holding you back. So thanks for sharing that.
Yep. I do see we have Aritra here on the call as well. Aritra, sorry to put you here on the spot, but if you have anything to share about the MCP server and all the investments we are making around AI on AKS, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I think I'll mention a few things. First, obviously, try out the agentic CLI experience. It currently uses bring your own LLM, which is you can use any LLM that could be Azure, OpenAI, anything else. We'd like to get some feedback on how that's working out. We have heard some feedback on the costs and specifically on the setup of the LLM. So curious to hear that. On the MCP server, I mean the AKS MCP server, you can use it anywhere. So that's not tied to the agentic CLI experience, though the agentic CLI experience uses the MCP server as an option. So it's deployed locally. The second thing I'd like to mention is we are thinking about going beyond troubleshooting. So we'd like to get the core troubleshooting scenarios right in terms of which it could be networking otherwise. So like any feedback on troubleshooting is appreciated. And then we'd also like to address cost, right sizing, some of the security and vulnerabilities, like more observability on there, as well as how to patch some of those, is that upgrade something else, including deploying. These are likely to be in the next year, but if you have specific scenarios you'd like to use the agent with, like that would be awesome if you can share some feedback. Last thing, the agent by design is read only. So we want to be extremely careful with not changing or any of the resources, anything. So it's only, it gives recommendations, but you can perform those, like the agent does not perform them on your behalf. That will at least be the philosophy for the short term. Once we have enough confidence in some of the remediations, we'll consider if we can do this by default. Hopefully in one of the upcoming calls, I'll share more on the CLI agent and maybe show a few demos and a little bit on the roadmap too. But yeah, feel free to reach out to anyone here on the group, and yeah, we can connect over a call as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Aritra. Again, if we have questions, we do have Aritra here who can help us through that. All right, so yeah, we'll leave the floor open for a few minutes to see if there are any other questions coming in. Anything that folks on the Microsoft side want to share? Oh, yes, of course. Victoria, please do come off mute. I think you should be able to. If not, let me know.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My first question is about a feature related to workload identity. It's called identity binding. I'm going to put the issue link into chat. It was supposed to be released originally, I think, in the earlier half of this year, and it keeps getting pushed back, and I'm just wondering what the status is. Basically, when people set up a federated identity credential, they don't want to just tie it to a single cluster, just because then you have to kind of, every time you have a new cluster, you have to create a new federated identity credential. There's also limitations. You can only have like 20 FICs associated with the workload identity or user assigned identity, right? So I think a lot of people are curious about this feature, or at least I am.
Got it. Let me see. Do we have someone on the call to address that? If not, I'll yeah, because I'm not aware of that one. I don't know, Brian, you're aware. If not, we'll definitely try to get you some.
I mean, I'm aware of it. Yeah, I don't know that we have an update on where it is, but we'd have to reach out to Shashank. He's in the issue there. Certainly the 20 limit is very constraining. We know that. So I know it's probably coming, but we just need to get Shashank and get you an update on there. It is okay to just ask again and tag folks like that on there. I know that's probably annoying, but worth doing just to see if we can get an update.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one more question, if it's all right. Currently, if you're deploying your cluster via Terraform to enable managed Prometheus and all the default sets of alerts, like you literally have to manually deploy them. Like there's no, managed Prometheus enabled equals true. You literally have to deploy like a template for all the Prometheus rules and all the alert rules. Are there any plans to address this?
Victoria, could you shoot me an email? There are plans to address this, and I'm assuming it's more around having to set up the DCRs, the alerts, and etc. In Terraform. We have some plans. I do not know about the timelines, but at least in the short term, if we can reach out, I'll also set up something with the Azure Monitor team. We have been looking at it, on the simplification for this.
Yeah, because that is essentially what everyone's doing. Everybody's like working kind of out of outdated template. And I will actually say some of the default Prometheus rules are not even working. They throw out errors. Just haven't had a chance to look into them, but it would be nice if you could just enable them.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you've seen Ken on Brian's team. We have a public doc on setting up Terraform for managed Prometheus and stuff. Maybe we can share that at least as a starting point, and yeah, we can set up a further chat or email on the progress and when we plan to address this.
Yeah, if you could share something updated, because what I have was maybe like 2 years old and I haven't seen updates to it.
Sure, I'll share
Yeah.
this on. Yep.
Thank you.
Right. Any other questions, comments from other folks? Thanks, Victoria, for all the feedback. All right. So if we don't have any other questions, then we will we'll wrap up this call for today. Thank you again for joining, and see you guys next month. I think next month being the event month. I'm pretty sure we are expecting a lot of activity. So looking forward to meet up with you guys again. Right. If you are at KubeCon Ignite, please feel free to drop at the booth and say hi. Love to hear from you. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Ciao.
Thank you.